Welcome to this evening's gut health and sourdough bread workshop. And I'm glad you joined me. And maybe you've made sourdough bread, or maybe you've never made it and you just want to learn a little bit more. You'll probably pick up a few facts. And I love sharing about gut health because that is really foundational to what we do and how we help people be healthier. And tonight I was listening to some doctors talk about the really important reasons why we need to take care of our gut. And I'll get there. I'll cover some of that. So I don't know, like I said, if you've baked bread before of any kind, or if you just are interested in learning how, and if you want to just watch me, that's fine. There's some people that like to bake the bread along with me. But to start out, we're going to talk a little bit about one of the handouts. And I have two handouts, and actually three if you count the recipe. If you don't have those, you can let me know or the person that invited you tonight, and they can get those handouts to you. But that's okay. Sit back, relax, and just enjoy tonight. Don't worry about that at all. So the first thing I want to do before we get into the gut health is I want to show you what a loaf of bread looks like when it's ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to tilt my camera just a little bit down. And this bowl has the dough that is ready to go. And so I'm going to show you, take the tea towel off. This one happens to be a little bit of whole wheat. So my favorite flours that I use are King Arthur. So this is King Arthur all-purpose. That's a really good one. We'll talk about the good bacteria and the gluten and the wild yeast. This bag is called the bread flour. It's a higher gluten and a higher protein. And what I did tonight with this loaf, you can tell by the color, is I did 1 cup of King Arthur whole wheat flour just for fun, just to make it a little different. So what I'm going to show you right now is what I do when I put it in the oven. So this is parchment paper. And actually, I've heard so many good things about Reynolds parchment paper. I've never used it. I've used a different variety, but everyone says it's the best as far as non-sticking. So I'm going to tear off a piece. And I'm going to use it. Let's see. Yeah, you can see my oven. So I'm going to take out I have a Dutch oven in here. And the thing is, the Dutch oven is getting hot. It's always good to get it hot before you bake your bread. It might feel like we're going a little backwards order right now, but I want you to have the benefit of seeing this. So I even put it in the oven with the lid on. So I'm taking that off, and I'm putting this parchment paper. You can see me, right? It's kind of far away, but the parchment paper goes, I'm going to poke it down in there a little bit. And I'm going to take this beautiful bread dough, and I'm going to just plop it in there. So I don't know that you can see all that well right now, but I'll show you. So I'm just going to dump it on the parchment paper. Well, this one really rose. It's a big one. So I'm putting it in there. And then to create a steam, I'm going to put some water. You can use ice too, but that helps to create some steam. So I'm just putting it on the dough all around on the parchment paper. Doesn't matter. We say do it 3 times. A lot of people call it baptizing the dough, but now it's in there and it's really gonna bake well. Okay, so now I'm going to pop it back in with the lid on for 40 minutes, lid off for 10 minutes. And what that does is give it a chance to brown. So back in the oven, the pan goes. And hopefully we'll get to see that. We probably won't be on that long, but I will have pictures. Okay, so that's the last step, but I wanted you to see how that looks and how it works. The first step is you have a mother, and the mother, you feed it, and this is a coffee filter to keep it not airtight. So the mother is what, when it's poured off, is called the starter. So we're going to do the steps of the bread next, but what I want to do is start out with talking a little bit about gut health. So I have one of the handouts is called Gut Health Fun Facts. And my favorite one on that page is that at least 70% of our immune system begins in the gut. And what do you think that is? Well, that's basically the good bacteria as is built or it's eaten up or destroyed. Just heard from this doctor panel tonight. Another way of saying that is our good bacteria thrives on fruits and vegetables. The bad bacteria thrives on non-fruits and vegetables. So that would be meat, processed foods, anything else that we consume. So it just says we need to eat more fruits and vegetables to create more prebiotics. That's basically what we feed our gut. And so that's our good bacteria in our gut. So also, the other fascinating fact is serotonin is created, 90% of it, up to 90%, is created in our gut. And there's a nerve called the vagus nerve that runs from our gut to our brain, and it actually communicates with our brain and our heart and from the gut. So these discoveries have happened in the past 10 years so that people, so that we understand that what we are feeding our body is actually affecting our brain, how we think, how we feel, whether we're moody or anxious. It all starts in the gut. So that's an interesting part of the story. So the other thing to know too is that our gut cannot absorb the vitamins that we consume unless we have enough omegas in our body. And basically, omegas come from algae, omega-3. There's other sources, there's berry sources. And we know that the more omegas we have, the better chance we have of absorbing good the vitamins, the minerals, the enzymes, all the things our body needs for it to be functioning and healthy. So Juice Plus, you might see in the background here, I have my Juice Plus here. Our family really loves these plant-based omegas because this is a way to not only get omega-3 in its raw state from algae, not from fish, but also these other berries you can see here, pomegranate and sea buckthorn, raspberry oil, seeds, tomato seed oil. And what you get is a wonderful blend of oils. See it, you can see it, it's an orange oil. And we take those every day for not only our gut health, but for our brain, our joints, our heart, cardiovascular system in general. Everything is better, works better, runs better when you have enough omegas in your body. So that is one of the big things about Juice Plus. But the other thing I want you to know is that it's important that we eat enough fruits and vegetables for our overall health, not just our gut. So I'm going to stop for a minute to share my story. It was about 20 years ago, a friend of mine who's a nurse practitioner shared with me all about Juice Plus. She said, you know, we need more fruits and vegetables. And I was completely on board with that. I have, my husband and I have 4 children. And at the time they were young teens and preteen. And even my youngest was 6 years old. She was dealing with allergies almost every day on allergy med. And I personally had developed some osteoarthritis in my hand. And there were days when I just couldn't even like do this, grasp the bottle because it hurt so much. And I would say my best results personally was after 6 months, all those symptoms totally disappeared. And of course, everyone's different, but inflammation is the root of every problem, whether it's allergies or arthritis or any kind of disease. So reducing inflammation is going to help us avoid getting sick, or at least reduce symptoms. Like, no, at some point, we'll all be sick at some point, right? So overall, my youngest got off allergy meds. She was taking them every day. My others were getting sick less often, missing less school and athletics. It was really something we began to notice in that first 6 months, but surely after a year. And then I will tell you that my 4 adult children, today they're all adults, are continuing to take Juice Plus because they see the benefits and they really want to have that in their body every day. And my daughter, who has 1 child and she's pregnant, she is taking Juice Plus as part of her pregnancy routine. So I love that Juice Plus is so absorbable, up to 100%. They say somewhere in the range of 95 to 100%. And it really does produce results. And there is a pregnancy study, so that's a really good thing. And there are three things that most people want to know about a product before they take it. Like, is it safe for children, for people on a special diet, or if they're in treatment for some disease? And also, is it safe for pregnant women? And the answer to all three of those is yes. Juice Plus is safe for all those three categories and more. So as long as you can eat broccoli, you can eat Juice Plus. It won't interfere with other things. And then the other thing we want to be sure and do is eat lots of fiber-rich foods. There's a slight amount of fiber, but Juice Plus is juiced with the seeds, the peel, the stem, everything. So when you think of an apple, that whole apple gets juiced and it's in there. It's not just the core, the meat of the apple. So I think that's pretty cool because you still get a little bit of fiber. But of course, in our diets, none of us are really, well, I shouldn't say none. Most of us aren't getting enough fiber, and that's something we strive to do better at, right? It's really important. We do have a program called the Shred 10, and I've done it for years. My husband loves doing it. We do the Juice Plus capsules back here, and we do 1 or 2 shakes a day. And I really do want to encourage you to look into that because it's a way to move towards a healthier lifestyle. Simple steps, taking one change at a time. Adding Juice Plus is wonderful. It'll make changes. You'll crave more fruits and vegetables like we did, but also to start like drinking more water and maybe moving your body a little more every day. So that program is really great. And I know some people are running one right now. I'm going to run one the Monday after Thanksgiving. If anyone's interested in joining us, love to have you. So anyway, fermented foods. So now we're easing into our sourdough. So fermented foods are basically good for us. And do you know why? The reason is that the sugar is broken down by that wild yeast. So, when you make sourdough bread, you use a mother, which is a fermented starter, or mother and starters can kind of be an interchangeable word because basically this is a mother, it's been fed, so now it's a starter. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to mix up a batch for you and show you how I do that. So that's why it's so wonderful, because it's fermented food. I love this statistic. Did you know that regular bread, let's just say a store-bought bag of white bread, has anywhere from 800 to 1,800 parts per million of gluten, and homemade sourdough has only 8 parts per million. Isn't that amazing? So that means that people that are gluten intolerant can most of the time eat sourdough bread. Now, if someone is really serious celiacs and they get a violent reaction, they should probably stick with a gluten-free sourdough. And we do have recipes for that as well. But most people can do this. Most people find it helps the gut. And I find if I eat a piece of sourdough every day, I really notice less bloating and I feel good. In fact, I was going to show you, here's one demo I'd love to show you. This is a bit of an experiment, and I will tell you that they're not perfect, but I tried making sourdough pretzel rolls. I thought I might make those for Thanksgiving dinner. And so here's one. So this is basically the sourdough. I divided into pieces, twisted it. You can kind of see it's a little bit twisted looking. Like I said, it's not perfect. And you boil it like a bagel, and then you brush it with an egg wash and sprinkle salt on it. I thought that sounded fun, and I will say they're pretty good. But it's another way to consume sourdough, and it really does help the gut. Okay, so I want to go over the last thing. The last handout I want to go over with you is called Did You Know? And this one is all about what certain foods do for our health. It's very encouraging. For instance, the first one is, did you know that eating cabbage more than once a week cuts colon cancer risk by 66%? And did you know that eating a carrot per day cuts stroke risk in women by 68%? And eating a half cup of spinach once a day cuts macular degeneration risk by 43%. Mangoes are a good source of both soluble and insoluble fiber, helps to clean out our digestive system and feed the gut the good bacteria. Broccoli has 20 to 50% more anti-cancer capabilities than tamoxifen, which is the breast cancer drug. And apples contain natural estrogen and help reduce cholesterol. And this one probably is my favorite. They're all great, but acerola cherries, which are in the fruit blend and in the shake, the Perform shake mix, have been known to relieve symptoms of osteoarthritis and promote collagen growth. So how exciting is that? That you don't have to add a collagen supplement if you don't want to. You can actually just eat more Juice Plus. I love that. Few other things. Cranberries have strong antibiotic and antiviral capabilities. Kale has 50% more calcium than milk. Tomatoes reduce your risk of skin, pancreatic, bladder, and prostate cancer. And if you eat 6 servings per day of fruits and vegetables, it cuts stroke risk by 44%. And eating 9 servings per day of fruits and vegetables will cut your stroke risk by 66%. And did you know all of these are in Juice Plus? So you really are adding a big layer of protection when you add Juice Plus to your diet. The other interesting thing about sourdough bread, and this is a fact I learned recently, is that maybe you might go to the grocery store and see sourdough bread for sale. What is the difference in that sourdough and in the sourdough we make in our kitchen? The main thing is it's not made from a mother, which means it does not have the wild yeast. In fact, in some instances, they add a flavoring that makes it taste tangy. You know, if you love sourdough bread, you know there's a tanginess taste to the sourdough, and they can actually add a flavoring. So it's terrible because those also contain phytic acid, which prevents the absorption of all those fabulous nutrients in the bread. So what I'm saying is you're so much better off to make your own bread than to buy it at the store. And when you watch me tonight, I hope you'll be convinced that you can do it too, and you'll enjoy your bread. So, all right. I am going to move into making the bread. So that means I'm going to lower my camera just a tad so you can see my countertop. All right. And I'm going to grab a bowl. It doesn't matter. You can use a ceramic bowl. You can use a glass bowl. I'm going to use this aluminum bowl tonight. So what I'm going to put in here, I may have there we go. You can see a little better. Okay. So what I'm going to put in here is we're going to start with, this is the mother, and you can basically just cover a circle in the bottom of the bowl. It's the recipe, which I can provide you. It's 1/4 of a cup. Now, can you see the bubbles in there? See those bubbles? That means it's active. It's actually growing. It's got a lot of wild yeast. You can smell the yeast too if you put your nose in here. So I'm just going to pour off what we call the start, and it's about 1/4 cup. Mine is a little bit more than 1/4 cup. So then what we're going to add to this is the salt and the water. Now you never want to use tap water, and the reason for that is, hold on, let me grab my salt. The reason for that is that tap water contains chlorine, and chlorine will kill that wonderful wild yeast in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my filtered water, which I thought was right here. Let me grab it. Okay, and so I use a filter, you know, a water like a Brita. This one is a different variety. And I'm going to get 2 cups of filtered water. You can use bottled water, spring water, distilled water, as long as it's not tap water. Just going to pour it right over this starter. And now this is sea salt. You can use Himalayan salt. You can use any kind of salt you want, but I like this one. And so I'm just going to do my 1 tablespoon of sea salt. I'll just pour it right in there. And if you're a stickler for measuring, you can do that. If you're not, you're still going to be successful. Okay, so now we've added the starter, the water, and the salt. And now we're going to move into the flour. And tonight I'm going to use this King Arthur all-purpose flour. And it's 4 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, if you like your bread a little fluffier, then I have a great suggestion. Sift it. This is something I got on Amazon. It's really just it's a sifter. It's a very easy, not hard to do sifter. And I'm going to take up, I'm going to show you with how I do this. I make basically work you sift it after you measure it, which is different than I know a lot of recipes if you're a baker, but I'm going to do it like this. And then I'm just going to shake this down. It gives it such a nice fluffy texture. And I'm going to do that for 4 cups. So, when you're thinking about doing this bread, there's a couple of things, a planning you have to do to keeps it moving along the process. One is I generally make my dough at night because after we make the dough, it has to sit on the countertop, not the fridge, for 10 to 12 hours. So that works nicely. If you can put this together at night, when you wake up in the morning, you don't bake it right away. You have to tug and tuck. Tug and tuck is really a lot like kneading. If you've ever kneaded bread, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a way to put more air into the dough, and it makes it really nice and fluffy. So I'm kind of making a mess here, but that's okay. That's number 3. And the tugging and tucking is really important because what does tugging and tucking do? It actually creates more tanginess. It gives that wild yeast more of a chance to ferment, and it makes a lovely tasting sourdough. If you are not into it being super tangy, that's okay. You can actually do less tugging and tucking. And my suggestion is tug and tuck for 4 to 6 times. And when you tug and tuck, you can't do it more than every 2 hours. So it kind of is something you might want to be home that day because you're going to do it several times across the day, over the course of the day. This is a Dutch whisk. You don't have to have this. You can use a spatula, but I love the Dutch whisk because of the shape of it. It makes it really, really easy to blend all this. As you can see, my bowl is not huge, but I can just use this whisk and just keep stirring, and all the ingredients start falling together here. This thing is amazing. It's really very helpful, and it moves everything the right way, getting it all together. So it'll kind of be thick. I think it looks a lot like pizza dough. If you've ever made or rolled out pizza dough, you know what I'm talking about. It's really it stays together. You don't want it too wet, and yet we sprinkle it with water while it's sitting on the countertop. Now this one to me looks a little dry, and I'm saying that here. I'm gonna let you see it a little better. I say that because there's still some flour on the bottom that I'm not through mixing. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just need to mix it more and it'll be just fine. Yeah, it's starting to look better now. But in the case that the water does end up looking, the dough ends up looking too dry. And by too dry, I think you'll know what I mean. Like it just has flour everywhere. This one's turning out okay. But what I'm going to do is show you how to tug and tuck. So now our dough is mixed. It's all mixed up. I'm going to get my hands a little wet. Just going to pour some water on my hands. And I'm going to get all doughy, but I'm going to reach down underneath the bottom here of the dough and pull it up over itself. So that's tug and tuck. And I have to go all the way around the bowl, tug and tuck, like that. Tug and tuck, tug and tuck. And once I've done it, a good 360 degrees here, I'm done. I'm done for tonight. This will sit on my countertop overnight. And when I wake up in the morning, now you'll understand why I showed you the last steps first, because you got to see that lovely risen dough and how I put it in the oven, because those are the last steps. Okay, you can see my hands are getting really doughy. So I've done it enough. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to cover it with a tea towel. I have to rinse my hands off when you touch the tea towel. I'm going to get the tea towel slightly wet. I just ran it under some water. You can see my tea towel. And these are really cheap, inexpensive tea towels I use. I get them at Target, $5 for $5, or you get them on Amazon, or you may have some you just have at home you can use. I got this slightly damp. You can see it's slightly damp. I'm just going to cover this dough just like that. And it is completely done. Now that you got to see all that, I'm going to allow this to sit right here on my countertop overnight. And in the morning, I will tug and tuck. Probably in the morning around 8 o'clock, I will tug and tuck again. And then around 10, it'll need to be tug and tucked again. So let's see, 1 tonight. And then I'll probably do it 4 more times tomorrow. You can experiment and see what you like best, but you want to tug and tuck at least 4 times and up to 6. And if it sits out on the counter, be sure it's not more than 24 hours. I think it starts losing its ability to rise after that long. So by tomorrow afternoon, early evening would be a good time to bake it. So that is it. That is sourdough and good gut health. And I'm so glad you came. If you have any questions, I'm going to turn off the recording, and you're welcome to ask me any questions. So hang on one second. I am going to stop.